Hello, everybody, and hope you're all well. Welcome to our seventh webinar for job seekers. Welcome back to all our regulars. We have a lot of people who are logging in every week, and we're delighted to see you, and the feedback has been really positive. So welcome back, and welcome to anybody who's joining us for the first time as well. So far, we have covered on our webinars, we've looked at online interviews, we've looked at LinkedIn, we had a session on CV tips and tricks. We also did resilience, and last week we did wellness and nutrition in the workplace. So we've had a lot of different topics. And today we are delighted to have Valerie O'Hanlon with us, and she's going to cover off the 5 steps to, what is it again? The 5 steps to,
take control of your
take
career.
control of your career. Thanks very much. I just got a mental block there. So first of all, just a little bit about us, who we are. We started off as Employ Mum 5 years ago, and we rebranched out to become Employflex last year to widen our audience. We have over 4,500 candidates registered with us, actively seeking flexible work. We run training and consultancy programs with regard to remote work and flexible work. We also run back to work workshops, and these we've brought online now every Thursday at 3 o'clock. We also run returnships with partner companies, and we are lobbyists for flexible work in Ireland. We also have developed a flexible quality mark, and this we give to companies who are truly offering flexibility in the workplace. So we do a lot of things around flexible work and remote work, and we're delighted to offer these webinars for free every Thursday. So if you wanted to give a little bit back to us, we'd love if you would share, follow, or like us on any of our social media platforms. We're on them all, so we would be delighted if you would pop on and give us a follow or a like, or if you enjoy the webinar today, tell everybody about it. So that would be just a little bit given back to us. So that would be great. So a huge thank you to Valerie O'Hanlon here today. She's giving up her own time pro bono to be here today, and Valerie is one of our hand-picked coaches on our panel of coaches that support Employ Mum and Employ Flex. We have referred many candidates to her, and they have always come back with glowing positive terms. So she's an excellent coach. She's an award-winning career coach based in Castleconnell in County Limerick. She's one of only 25 coaches in Ireland with the PCC credential, that's professional certified coach. So you know you're in good hands when you call up Valerie. She works with individuals on career change, career development, and career transition. So over the last few months, Valerie has moved her coaching entirely online, and she's been working with clients to identify their values and strengths and helping them to stay accountable to their career plans, which is very much in line with what we're talking about today. She also provides help with interview preparation and confidence building. And Valerie also does give back herself as well. She's a volunteer coach with Connect a Coach, which offers free coaching to frontline and emergency healthcare staff. So we're delighted to have you here today. And if you haven't been in a webinar before, if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you'll see the questions and answer feature. So that's how we're going to communicate today. So if you have any questions at all while Valerie is going through her presentation, if you just pop them in there, and Valerie and if I can myself, we'll answer your questions then at the end of Valerie's presentation. So without further ado, it's over to you, Valerie, and I can't wait for your presentation. I'm interested to hear, because I'm 49 and I still don't know what I want to do. So I'm interested to hear what I have got to do.
Okay. And I think we're all in that boat, aren't we? You know, that we've gone through our careers, and what we thought we might do when we were younger is never what we end up doing later on in life. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well as we go through the presentation. So just let me get it. Okay, so we can all see that okay? Great. All right, so you're all very welcome, and thanks very much to Karen for that lovely introduction and for facilitating these webinars. It's a great service that she's been offering over the last couple of weeks and keeping everybody going during the lockdown. So that's been brilliant. All right, I've got to make sure now that I don't keep looking at myself and I look at my camera instead. So I'm hoping that I'll do that as we go through the webinar. So I think we're going to talk for about maybe 30 or 40 minutes, and hopefully you'll get some, clear, practical takeaways that can help you take control of your career as we move forward. All right. So just a little bit, I know Karen gave a little bit of an introduction about me there, But I'll just reiterate that a little bit, in the sense that I am an award-winning coach. I won the Career Coach of the Year back in 2016, and I'm very proud of my PCC credential that I received just in March of this year, just as we went into lockdown. So it was a great achievement for me, and it took me quite a while to do it. And just to let you know, the coaching isn't a regulated industry. It's you know, there are different coaching bodies, and I suppose if you are looking for coaching, it's important that you get a coach that is a member of one of the coaching bodies, and that is, you know, credentialed if possible, and certainly is actively involved in continuous professional development in their career coaching, or their coaching in their coaching practice. So that's really important. And Karen has a list of coaches on her website, all of them equally professional and expert in their field. So that's a good starting point if you are looking for a coach. My background, I sometimes say my background was in HR, but really my background is in a whole load of things. I've been an entertainer, a singer, I've been in banking, I've been working for my own business for the last 6 years as a professional coach, and I've done quite a lot of different things, worked in media as well, in RTE for a while. So I've had many different careers along the way. And I suppose the thing is that when I left school, there certainly wasn't a CAO course that said career coaching on it. And even if there was, I doubt if I'd have picked it, because I wouldn't have had any clue what it was doing, what it was. So career coaching is definitely something newer. It's not career guidance, it's not career counseling, and it's not advice. Career coaching is about getting you to come up with the answers yourself, helping you to discover where it is that you want to go, and supporting you through that. So a coach is really a listening partner, and somebody that's actively helping you to move forward. And it's very forward moving in looking at the actions that you need to do and helping you to achieve those. So that's what a coach does in a nutshell. So I'll keep going and move on to my next slide. So I guess my inspiration for the presentation today, or for the webinar today, was two things. And that was, the first one was, I was in a client's factory back in early January, and very regulated environment. And when I was going in through the manufacturing floor, there was a big mirror as you went in the door, and this big sign on top, and it said, this is the person that's responsible for your safety. And I just thought it was really powerful, and it had an impact on me as I went through, and I certainly remembered it as well. But you know, safety obviously is, you're responsible for your own safety when you're in a work environment like that. And so it's not just the employer. The employer will, yes, create a safe environment for you to work in, but really your safety is down to you at the end of the day. And so it got me thinking about our careers, and do we give over responsibility for our careers to our employer and to the organizations that we work with? And perhaps maybe we need to take a little bit of that control back and a little bit of that responsibility for it ourselves. So I guess I wanted you to look in the mirror, and maybe this is your chance after this webinar, is to look in the mirror and ask yourself, you know, are you taking responsibility? Are you taking control of your career? The other thing that inspired me for this webinar as well was a client called me about 2 weeks ago, and I'd worked with her maybe about 2 years ago. She'd moved jobs as a result of that, was doing really well, and doing so well that her company offered her a promotion. But the promotion that they offered her was not in the area that she was working in. She was very technically minded, very innovative kind of person, and she loved that technology development piece. But the role that they were offering her was more of an individual contributor, more of a kind of a guardian of what it was that other people were doing, maybe a little bit of a quality role. And she wasn't sure if that was the role for her. And she did the right thing. She took a step back and said, I'll think about it and get back to you. And she came and she called me. And we just had a 10 or 15-minute conversation. And we talked through what her values were, what her goal was for her career. Did this new promotion fit with what her career intention or her career goal was? And what we discovered was it didn't fit with what she wanted. She wanted something that would add to her skills, would also give her the opportunity to continue in the areas that she liked, the techno bits, the development side, but also to develop maybe her people management skills. And they were the areas that she wanted to develop further. So as a result of the call with me, she went back to her manager and said, well, actually, thank you for that offer, but really, I want to stay on the tech side, the development side, and I want to develop my people skills. And they came back to her with a team lead role and they would help her manage her development in those skills, those management skills, and those team leading skills. So it was a win-win for her, but she had the confidence to do that. She had built up the reputation with the manager that she had and the company. They didn't want to lose her. So they found the role that she was looking for because she was clear on what it was that she was looking for. And she took that responsibility for her career. And I just thought, I wish everybody was like that. We're not, but if I could help inspire other people to be even half as confident as that girl was, then I think, I'd be doing a good job. So that's what's the inspiration for the seminar. So keep that in mind as we go through the slides. So I have 5 steps to take control of your career. So 5 simple ways, but those 5 steps will have other little elements to them. And what I call, milestones in the steps along the way. So milestones sound really large, mile is quite a distance. So I go for inch pebbles. So little small steps, little inch pebbles along the way. And they're the steps that we're going to take as we move through our career and taking control of your career. So the 5 steps are taking control and making the plan. So a plan is always a good thing. Ask for support. Ask for support and get feedback. Build trust and credibility, always important. Network or networking, and review and reflect. I'm a big believer in reflection. So I'll talk about that quite a bit as we move through the slides. So they're the 5 steps, and let's see what's involved in those 5 steps. So if you were to think about it, just take a step back and think for a moment, what is your career goal? Where are you going? What is it that you want to do? Have you ever really thought about it, or have you just drifted along? Left school, got a job, went to college, left college, you've got a job with an employer, you've moved from here and there. Maybe your goal has been to, improve your salary, maybe it's location, different things like that. But have you really thought about what's the main career goal? Where do you see yourself in that 3 to 5 years? That question that you get asked in an interview setting. Where is it that you want to get to? And what does it look like? What does that career goal or career intention look like? So they say, the expression is that a dream is a goal without a plan. So, we have great dreams of what we'd love to be doing, running a coffee shop, making chocolate, and there's some of my dreams. And, it might be to, run your own business, or it might be to be the CEO of a large company, or it might want to be the HR director of something, or it might be just to have a small little, plot of land somewhere and to grow your own vegetables. What is your goal? What's your career intention? Where are we moving forward towards? We need to know where that is so that we can then set the plan and set the steps in place. And when we do that, when we think about that, things that we need to think about when we're looking at setting that career goal or intention is looking at our values. What's our values? So what's important to us? Is it things like, flexibility and, to be able to get home early from work or just do 3 days a week? Is it recognition? You like to be told that you've done a job well done. Is it a sense of achievement? At the end of the day, you have to clear that desk and say, that's it, I'm done. Everything's clear. It's a new day tomorrow. Is it, different values that you might have? It might be your interaction with others, so you might be really good at something. And I'm going on to the strengths piece now as well, connected to those values as well. So you might be really good at something, but that might not be what you really enjoy. So you might be the organizer, the one who does the logistics, the coordinating. But really what you prefer is to be the person that's, going to the conference, meeting with the client. You might prefer to be meeting and having that interaction with people out there. Or you might prefer to be the one that comes up with the ideas before the come down the line to you to be organized and to be implemented. So think about what are the things that you enjoy doing? What are your strengths? and align those with the things that are important to you, those values. And maybe, take this time now to take a minute or two to write down your top 3 values even. When I'm working with people, I'd say the top 10 values. But take a moment to, as we're talking now, to jot down your top 3 values, the things that are, your deal breakers in a career and in a role that you want to have. On my website, you will find a values exercise to do, and gives you a whole list of values, and it'll give you some instructions to do on that. So that might be a good place to start as well if you're having difficulty coming up with the 3 values at the moment. So think about that as we go through. So when you have those values and when you've identified your strengths and the things that you enjoy doing, well, then you can see, well, if that's what I want and this is what I've got at the moment, then I know what the gap is in between where I want to get to. This is my goal. This is where I'm at. These are the things that I want to have built in the middle. And think about what needs to change. Ask yourself that question. What needs to change in order for you to be able to realize your career goal and to implement a strategy where you can demonstrate those strengths and work towards those strengths, using those strengths on a day-to-day and in your career. And as I said, set inch pedals, little steps. This is not a quick fix. This is a long-term plan, and this is something that we're going to review and reflect on as well as we go through. So it's a long-term thing. Don't try and change the world, within a week. This is a long-term plan, step by step. This is where we're going, and this is where we're getting to. And things will change along the way as well. So our next step is to ask for support and feedback. So when we ask for support and feedback, is who do we ask for support from? And who do we get that feedback from? So something I came across, we all get feedback maybe in a work setting, you need to do better, or they might tell you that you're doing well on something. But normally in a performance review or things like that, it's about how you can improve, what you can do better. So an exercise that I always ask clients to do is maybe to look at, well, what do you do really well? Especially sometimes if you're not happy in your career at the moment, your confidence can have taken a little bit of a knock. You mightn't be feeling, all roses and happy clappy. And you might think, well, I don't have the motivation and the energy for this moving careers or looking at it, at how I can move it forward because, my confidence levels are down and my motivation levels are down. So sometimes we need that help and support. So the exercise that I'd ask you to do there is to send a little message to your friends, maybe 2 or 3 friends, maybe, your brother or your sister or your mother or your father, and your colleagues or maybe your manager, and say to them, look, I'm doing this little reflection piece on, my career and how to move it forward. And I'm just looking for positive feedback. So you're only looking for positive feedback, and ask them to give you 3 things that they think that you're really good at, 3 strengths, and then ask them to give you 1 or 2 lines as to when they've seen you demonstrate that strength or that skill or that positive piece. So 3 positive pieces of feedback and how you've demonstrated that. An example of when they saw you demonstrating that skill and strength. That can really boost the confidence. And it can give you a lot of information to work with. Because they'll come back and they'll tell you things that maybe you didn't even realize about yourself, that you'll now know that you're good at. And maybe that's where you need to be putting your focus, is on the things that you're good at and you enjoy. So look for that feedback from people. The other thing I would say is to get a coach or a mentor or a sponsor. And actually, up to 10 minutes ago, I didn't have the word sponsor in that slide. And I myself was on a webinar yesterday, and that was one thing that I took. That was my takeaway from that webinar yesterday, was how important it is for you to have a sponsor within your organization. So the coach will help you and support you to figure out where it is you're going, and will hold you accountable to what it is that you're doing. Your mentor will give you advice and the benefit of their experience. Help you sort through maybe issues that you have. Say, well, this is what I did when I came across that situation. Maybe you should try this. So they will give their advice. The sponsor, on the other hand, will be the person that shouts for you. So the sponsor will be the one who, when the succession planning is going on in the organization, the sponsor will be the one that says, hey, you know what? Mary is a great person. She is really good at what she does. And I know I've had a conversation with her. She wants to move up and move into different areas and wants to move her career forward. And I think she'd be a person that we should look at in this career succession planning. So that sponsor is the person who's in your corner. They're the one that's fighting on your behalf. And that's a good person to have. So that's a whole other webinar, is how to get one. But that's something to think about, is who's your sponsor? And perhaps you should have all three of those things: a coach, a mentor, and a sponsor. And they're really important. That's a really key slide, I think, in moving forward in your career. Okay. Watching my time there to make sure we're on target. Okay. So my next slide is on build trust and credibility. So, there's no point in saying, oh, I want to be the CEO, and I think I should be because I'm a nice person, and I do a good job sometimes. But do you do a good job all the time? So do as you say. So if you say you'll do something, do you follow through on that? Is your follow through good? Are you consistent in your approach and in the things that you do? Are you realistic in people's expectations? So if somebody comes back to you and says, I need this done within 24 hours, are you realistic about that and say, well, hold on a second, that'll take me 2 days, and, come back to me then. So therefore, then you're not letting people down when you don't do it in the 24 hours that they're expecting. So be realistic, be consistent, be competent in what you do. So to be competent, you need to know what you're doing. So I'm going to jump ahead to the last one, which is always be learning. So always be looking for opportunities to learn and to develop your skills. I had a client a good few years ago, and they came to me with their CV to just help with their CV. And they'd a big gap, between time that they'd worked. They were still working. They'd taken some time out from their career, but they'd a big gap, not just of what they were doing, but of their learning and their development of themselves. So even though, an Employflex would work with a lot of people that might be returning to work. So even though you haven't been maybe working in the workplace, there's opportunities to do other things, to always be learning, to looking for volunteer opportunities, to be helping out with the Parents Association, to be helping out with the GAA. So there's always opportunities to be learning and to be sharing and collaborating with others. So even if you're not actively in the workplace, always be looking for opportunities to develop and to keep yourself, at the top of your game. So that's a really important piece, especially for those that might be in the workplace. So, and for those even that are in the workplace, sometimes we get a little bit complacent. We think, well, I have a grand job here, and I tip in and I tip out, and I get a grand salary for it. But then all of a sudden, you get to a stage in your life that you think, maybe there's a little bit more than that. And then you see, well, there's a gap in my development, my professional and my personal development. So always be looking for opportunities to keep on top of things. And it may not even be in your work area. It could be something completely different. To go back to the chocolate making, I went and did a chocolate making course years ago, and nothing to do with anything. But it was a fun weekend. It was different. I met people that were outside of my normal scope. They were more diverse than people that I would normally come across. And there's a lot to be learned from stepping out of your comfort zone and trying something new. So that's a piece there as well. And collaborate, share, recognize the contribution of others. So, where you might think the recognition value is important for you, you should recognize others as well. Other people value that pat on the back, or that thank you, or as Karen said in the beginning, if you like the webinar, share that with other people, tell people about it. There's going to be other webinars, I'm sure, on a Thursday afternoon. Tell other people to join in. So all that helps, and it creates a real positive sense and a positive environment for everybody, and it lifts all boats. So do that too. Okay, so build your trust, build your credibility, be consistent, and deliver on what it is you say you'll do. So the next piece is on networking. So networking, it can be nearly the four-letter word to some people, because they hate it. They don't like networking. I'm talking quicker than I'm moving through my little pieces of paper here for myself. So I'm just going to catch up on myself. Networking can be, as I said, the four-letter word for some people. They hate it. They don't like it. I actually have been talking to somebody else about this, and they had recommended a book for me. So actually, it just came in the post today. It's called And Death Came Third. A really awful title. But the idea is that the three things that people hate, three things that people really fear in the world. One is public speaking, one is networking, and one is obviously, death and dying. So, but I'll let you know in another maybe article or a webinar what it's all about. But I got that new today, so it might be interesting things to think about. So anyway, back to networking. So networking is really important for a number of reasons in your career. And it's in networking, you might think, well, I work in an organization, but who would I be networking with? Networking is internal and external. So it's really important that you try to network on both levels, internally and externally as well. So who do you network internally with? You network with your peers, you network with the people in different departments, you volunteer for opportunities to work on, cross-functional teams or projects. That's a good way to network with people within your own organization. Maybe sign up with the social club, you join a choir. That's all networking. They're all social interactions. They're all networking, and they're opportunities to develop people that develop your knowledge in the things that you know about, and develop your expertise, because you learn from other people. So you can find out, well, what does Mary in accounts do? What is she all about? Where did she go to college? What kind of courses is she doing? What is Joanne in HR doing? Is she, how did she get into that? Did she move through the ranks? Did she go back to college at nighttime? They're the kind of things that you ask. They're the questions. You be curious about other people. And the amount of information and knowledge you can learn by asking other people questions is untold. Really a valuable, valuable gift to be able to be curious about other people and ask those questions. Really important. Networking can also keep you focused on your career. And how it does that is because other people will be curious about you. So they'll ask you, well, what do you do, Valerie? And coaching, oh, really? And what's that about? And so you get to talk about what you do. And you get to practice it. You get to articulate it. You get to hone it down as to what are the important pieces about what it is that you do and about what it is that you want to do. You get to practice. And it builds your confidence. So, you might say, how can networking build my confidence? I'm going to stand in the corner and not talk to anybody if I have to go somewhere or go to anything. But you pick, somebody to talk to. You stand by the coffee machine, or somebody said yesterday, the webinar I was on yesterday, they said somebody, always goes in the room and says, I'm only going to talk to people with, a red jacket on or a red top on, and I'll see how I fare with that. So networking can be done face-to-face. Obviously, we're having difficulties with that at the moment over the last 3 months. But networking can also be done online. There's networking events online to go to. As I said, I did a webinar yesterday with people. You get to know other people through that. You can be involved in different groups. So if you have a professional body that you might be involved in, like I'm in the CIPD, there'd be events that they would have ongoing. There's, or if you're in the accountancy body, those kind of things. There's always events and things. I said, even joining a choir, standing at the side of the GEA pitch, talk to people, be curious, get to know what's going on. And the idea is that the more people you know, the more opportunities open up. And the more opportunities open up to you, the more places that you see that you can, more career opportunities will open up as well. And more information you get to know what other careers are out there. Sometimes our view of what our career lives can be very, very narrow. And we don't know what we don't know. So there's jobs out there that we've never even heard of. I always give the, Karen will probably know this girl, but I always give the example of the graphic harvester. You know, a girl I came across doing that job, and no idea what does a graphic harvester does, and you know, what course do you have to do for that in college to be a graphic harvester. But a graphic harvester is somebody who pulls information together and delivers it in a graphic format. So somebody who might take notes from this webinar today and might give us a one-pager that has it all done in just little graphics and a little story, a graphic story, you know, and that's what a graphic harvester does. Tells a story in graphics. And who'd have ever thought that you could make a living out of something like that? And you can. So there's jobs out there that we've never even heard of. Another thing as well is, from the networking point of view, is talking to strangers is important to, you get loads of information from doing that, talking to strangers. And strangers become contacts and become relationships and become connections. And as my little picture there, like a little web of all those people, that person that you talk to may not be the person that will find you a job or might be able to give you a job, but they may know somebody that might be able to give you a job, or know an organization that's recruiting. So it's the weaker connections. It's never the strong connections. They're all the people you know. You know, they're all your friends and your family, and you know, the people you work with. They're the strong connections. It's the ones on the outer edges, the weaker connections, that actually can be quite powerful in finding you a job. One other thing I'd say on that as well is, I'm spending a lot of time on this networking slide. I'll go on, I'll say it on the next slide actually. So networking is really an important piece of taking control of your career. So the next slide then is review and reflect. So I'm a big believer in reflecting on things. I keep a daily journal. I write in it, and I capture my thoughts and my feelings in it. And what it's good for is for looking and seeing what's working and what's not working. So, you know, everything doesn't work. Everything doesn't go to plan. Plans need to be changed. You know, who would have thought we'd be in lockdown for this period of time, or that this would have happened to us, and how does that affect your career? Plenty of people have, it's resulted in them losing their jobs, or their jobs being, you know, shortened weeks and things like that. So, you know, who'd have thought those things? So when those kind of things happen, it's good to be able to go back and look at your plan, see what's working, what's not working, do more of what's working, do less of what's not working, change it and tweak it if needed. Okay, so when I started my own business back in 2014, I started out as HR consultancy. That was it. That's where I thought my niche was. I didn't like the HR consultancy work that I was getting. You always get the bad stuff, and people always call you when something goes wrong rather than when something goes right. And a client asked me to do some mentoring and some coaching of some HR staff, and that led me to be focusing on my business as a coach. So my plan for HR consultancy had to be changed, completely changed, and focused more on the coaching side of things. So your plans change, you tweak them as you go along. The hand, head, heart piece is something that I use in loads of different situations. So I start with heart. So the heart is to look at, well, what are you feeling? So what's going on with you at the moment, and what are you feeling about your career and where it's going and what you want? The head piece is, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about your career? What you're doing? Where are you going? And the hand piece is, well, what actions do I need to take? If I want to think and feel something different, what action do I need to take in order to do that? So that girl that I spoke about at the very beginning, she felt that she was being pushed into a role that wasn't where she wanted to go. And she felt that, you know, her heart lay in the more tech side of the business. And so her action was that she took her time, she reflected, and she went back and made the suggestion to do something else. So that's where your hand, head, heart can really be very powerful in finding out what it is that you want to do. And another good thing is to share your learnings with others. So that's why, you know, doing webinars like this today, for me, I love doing things like this so that I get an opportunity to share some of those learnings with other people. And it can be really beneficial to yourself. I'm honing my skills by, doing a webinar today, not something that I would normally do. So I'm getting to, build my skills in that area, and then I'm getting to share those things with others, and hopefully have an impact on somebody else that they're going to take something away from the session today. So my next slide is, and we're coming to the end of my slides, but if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. So this also goes back to the graphic harvester girl. So sometimes the jobs that we want, that career goal or career intention, maybe they're not there. And maybe we need to build it ourselves. Build it and they will come. Sometimes you need to create the situation yourself, and create the role for yourself. And if somebody had told me 10 years ago, I would be giving a webinar here today on taking control of your career and working as a career coach. 10 years ago, I was miserable in my job and felt as if there was no way out of it. I was going to be stuck in that office and at that desk for the next 30 years. And I looked at it differently. I built the door and I opened that door and found, a huge world on the other side of it. So sometimes you need to open yourself up to those opportunities. And I've just one little story on that as well. Is I'm a big believer in luck and making your own luck happen. And some research was done in the UK about how people look differently at luck. And they did a experiment with two people. One guy said, say, call him Mike. Mike felt he was really lucky. Everything always, turned out well for him. And Mary was always a bit down on her luck. When they interviewed her about doing this luck experiment, she was after, breaking her wrist, and she was the second time she'd done it. Loads of things that happened to her. So they asked them both to go. Said they were going to be interviewing them later that day, and they asked them to go to a coffee shop, and they'd meet them there. So the experimenters put a £5 note outside, done in the UK, and this research, and they put the £5 note outside the door of the cafe. Mike came along, saw the £5 note, picked it up, went in and bought himself a coffee. And they had also planted 3 people in the coffee shop as well. And they'd set them at different tables. And one of the people that they had set there was a successful businessman that was open to talking to people about new opportunities. And they planted these 3 people, and the other 2 people were just normal Joe soaps. So the Mike came, found a fiver, bought himself a coffee, looked around the coffee shop and saw, all the tables were full, and sat down beside the businessman and struck up a conversation with him. And I'll leave that at that side, and then I'll go to Mary. So Mary came along. Before she got to the door of the coffee shop, somebody else had picked up the £5 note that they planted for her. They had to plant a second £5 note. She came, she never saw the fiver. She went in, bought herself a cup of coffee. She saw the 3 people sitting on the 3 different tables, and she sat at the counter rather than sit at one of the tables with the other 3 people. And when they interviewed them later on that day, they asked them, well, how was your day? Mike said, I had a fantastic day. I found money on the ground, had a lovely cup of coffee, had a great conversation with this really interesting businessman. We exchanged business cards and numbers, and I'm actually going to meet him again, and there might be a possibility of doing some business. And Mary said, yeah, I went into that coffee shop, wasn't really very nice. Sat there on my own, and then I left. And the 2 of them could have had the same experience, but they didn't. So it's how you approach life, opportunities, anything that's out there. Open, smile on your face. Anywhere could be the opportunity for you, for your career, and for where you're going. Okay? So just to reflect, those 5 points were that make a plan, take control, make your plan, little steps, ask for support and get some feedback, get yourself a mentor or a coach or a sponsor or all 3. Build your trust and your credibility. Do what you say you'll do, when you say you'll do it, and always be learning and looking for opportunities. Network, listen to other people, be open, be curious, Don't go to networking. That was one thing I didn't say. Don't go to networking to get something. Go to networking with the perspective to give, that maybe you can share something that you've got with others. So go with the perspective of giving rather than getting, and sometimes you'll get 10 times back, 10 times more back. Review and reflect your plan. Do it regularly. Don't leave it till the end of the year. Every month, every 3 months, every 6 months, check in with yourself. Do you need to tweak anything? Do you need to change? And tune in with your hand, your head, and your heart. And my last slide is, what will you do now as a result of the seminar this afternoon? What are you going to stop doing as a result of today? What are you going to stop doing as a result of today? That might be that you might stop putting off talking to strangers, talking to people. That might be what it is. What are you going to start doing today as a result of this webinar? What are you going to start doing? Maybe write it down there as we're talking. I'm hoping that you've done those 3 values earlier on as well. So think about, what could you start? What one thing could you start doing as a result of the webinar today? And then, what are you doing well? Go back to that positive feedback piece. What are you doing well at the moment that you want to continue doing? It's working for you and that you're doing well. What do you want to continue doing? There are my 3 things. Stop, start, and continue. What will you do now as a result of the webinar today? And that's it. And I think hopefully we'll be able to go and talk and do some questions. I hope you've got some questions. I hope I can answer them. If not, Karen might be able to answer them for us. And let's see. There you go, Karen.
Super, Valerie. Thanks a million for that. A lot of what you said really resonated with me. You can just stop sharing your screen there for a second.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And then we'll be out.
There we go.
There then. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, a lot of what you said really resonated with me. I love your style of presentation. Actually, it's really conversational, and the anecdotes really brought it to life as well. So thanks for that. My personal takeaways were, surrounding yourselves, asking for the good feedback, and surrounding yourself with cheerleaders. I think that's really important, particularly at the moment.
Yes,
where we're all living in our small little bubbles, to surround yourselves with people who are really lifting you up rather than negatively impacting you. And that goes per social media as well. There's a lot of negativity on social media. I myself are steering away from Twitter and stuff like that, because it just seems to be a cesspit at the moment. So just to be wary of that, like if you are being dragged into negative things online, just to stay away from it. We don't need it, really. It serves no purpose. And surround yourself with the accounts that are positive and uplifting. And I definitely would recommend on getting the coach.
Yeah, there's plenty of out there that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, I would. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like many candidates come to us, and they say, we ask them, like, so what you want to do, and they're kind of like, I don't know really, I just know I want to work, and we're okay, you should talk to a coach to unearth yourself what it is you want to do, and I have seen personally the transformational results of people who have gone to coaches like yourself and like the others who are on our panel of coaches, and talking to a good coach can really make the difference and start you on the right path, so definitely would recommend that. And you also mentioned to always be learning. Definitely would agree with that as well. And just to let everybody know that we have a list of all the free courses that are available at the moment. So during lockdown, a lot of organizations very generously put a lot of their courses for free online. So we have on our blog on Employflex, we've got a list. I think there's about 15 organizations that are offering free courses at the moment. So, if money might be an object, at the moment as well, that might be somewhere to look where you can do, and a lot of those online courses, well, you can do them in your own time as well. So you can fit them around.
And I'd add to that, Karen, that the government also announced yesterday extra funding for the Springboard courses as well. So they're free to people who are unemployed, and I think only you pay 10% if you're employed of the cost. So there's a huge list. I just glanced through it this morning, and all of them, most of them, I'd say 90% of them are flexible learning, online learning, or blended learning. So that's a huge repository of courses as well for people to have.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw that this morning as well. And interesting enough, those courses are available, I think, very heavily subsidized anyway for homemakers. So
Right,
if you're
yeah,
a stay-at-home
yeah.
mom or dad, those are available to you as well. So that's something that they
They're
opened
probably
up there.
available free in those scenarios as well. So
Yeah, yeah, so
definitely something to look at for people.
worth looking
Take,
at as well.
I'm a big believer in take whatever's going. If you can get it for free, take
Absolutely.
it. You know,
Absolutely.
and yes, you know, sometimes we value things sometimes a little bit more when we do have to pay for them. But there's a lot of valuable courses, as you said, and your list is great as well, of free things that are out there. So if they're there, take advantage of them. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, I think, you know, one of the questions probably will be, you know, post-COVID for interviewers, you know, what did you do during COVID, you know? And so if you can say that you have upskilled or you did a course or, you know, those things on your CV will really add weight and,
Yes.
you know, show the prospective employer that you are continuously learning and that you are interested in your own development as well. So, you know, so definitely even a 4-week course, if you do something digital marketing, whatever you're into,
Mhm.
be well worth
But
putting
even
that in.
even things like this, even this webinar. So I mentioned there in the presentation there, I did a webinar yesterday. Somebody else watched somebody else's webinar, and the learning I got from it in the space of an hour was just huge. So you know, even things like that, you know, there's others that aren't as you know full of information, but there's definitely things there. There's a lot of information and learning there if you just have a look.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I also love your networking tips there. And we do networking online as well, a webinar, which we'll be probably rerunning again. We did it there a few weeks ago. And no, I suppose we should be thinking of networking as farming rather than hunting. I think that's a good quotation, you know. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and to be being curious and that, and just on the last bit then, and if opportunity doesn't knock, just a personal thing. When I moved back to Ireland, I lived in France for a number of years, and I moved back in 2013, and you know I couldn't find a flexible role,
Mm.
so that's where Employ Mum and Employflex were born. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, you
you know,
created it. So you're a perfect example of that. You know, so you built the door and opened it for yourself, you know. So
sometimes you have to do
it
that.
is
Yeah,
possible, you know, and I think that's another good thing as well for building confidence is to look at other people's experiences, you know, and see, well, if other people can do it, well then why can't I? You know, so but making sure that rather than just asking yourself questions, well, what actions do I need to take to be able to do that too?
absolutely. And as you said, the name of the webinar, I remember it now, is to take control
Yeah,
of
just
your
take
career. You know,
control.
you're the person in charge here. You
Yeah.
know, so
Hmm.
if the opportunity isn't there, try, you know, maybe go out and try and make it happen yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just hop into the questions and answers here, Valerie, if that's okay, and see if
Great.
there's any ones here. Okay. So anonymous attendee is asking, I feel like upskilling would help with my confidence and taking control of my career step as my education is 10 plus years old. But I'm really nervous of studying again after such a break. Any tips to bite the bullet?
So what I would say to you there is, I think that's great. I think great positivity and upskilling and taking the initiative. That's the real taking control. What I would say, if you're nervous about launching into something large, start with something small. So I'm back to my inch pebbles. So start with something small. So don't go doing maybe a full degree that's going to last the next 3 years. Start with maybe a certificate program, or as you said there as well, Karen, use something for 4 weeks or 6 weeks, or that's one night a week or something like that. That's the kind of thing to start with, to see, are you up for going back to college or going back and doing something purely academic. And I suppose the thing is, as well, as upskilling doesn't always have to be about an academic qualification. Upskilling can be by looking for those opportunities to be involved in a project or a team, or volunteering in the GAA club to do the books, or to do some fundraising. So your upskilling can be found in loads of different areas. It doesn't have to always be a formal academic qualification. So if you're nervous about launching into something like that, do smaller steps first and build up to that academic qualification.
As you said earlier, the milestones, it's the pebble inches, isn't it?
Inch pebbles,
Yeah,
inch
the inch
pebbles.
pebbles. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So bite by bite, I suppose. Yeah, no.
Bite by bite, yeah. And
Yeah,
smaller things, and also so it's other opportunities outside of work for upskilling. within work, looking for those opportunities and projects and pieces that you could do there. And you know, when you get that, if you do that exercise around feedback about what you're good at, maybe you can volunteer some of those things to people in work, you know. So and that can help you to upskill in those areas and get some credibility in those areas that other people have said you're good at, you know, as well.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so another one from anonymous attendee. I am often blown away as to how confident some of my male counterparts are at networking events. Any tips on how us ladies can own the room at networking events also?
So yes, obviously men are, you know, well confident, most of them, but you know, to be fair as well, sometimes, because I, you know, I coach men and women, and you'd be surprised sometimes there are some men out there that actually, you know, they are lacking in the confidence as well. So I think that's the first point, actually, is to think about it, and not in terms of what other people's confidence are, is about your own confidence first. So I would say tune into yourself before you go into any networking event. Tune into that hand, head, heart. So how am I feeling? What am I thinking about myself before I go in somewhere? And thinking, you know, thinking that, going back into that positive feedback piece as well, bringing all that with you before you go into a networking event. And get yourself in the right zone and frame of mind before you go in there. And then, you know, it's the same things as I would say going into an interview, you know, to sit up, probably not sitting up as straight as I should here, but you know, sit up straight, stand tall, and look ahead and look forward, and you know, be confident in your manner going in as well. So your body language is really key. So if you walk in, you know, with your head down and your bag around your shoulder and you're, you know, shiftily looking around for somebody to talk to, then everybody's going to turn their heads and kind of say, oh God, I don't know, I want to be talking to her. But if you walk in, you know, with the shoulders back, the head up, and stride in, you know, and take a second actually to scan the room. So when you go in, you stop inside the door and scan the room, find out where the coffee is, the tea, find out where the little groups are, where people are sitting, and see, you know, is there 2 people together, or is there 3 people, or maybe there might be other ones along the way as well, the other people that don't, you know, are hesitant to talk to people. And then see where you're going to go in. So your body language first. Well, first is you're getting yourself in the right frame of mind and the right zone. Second is your body language. Third is take your time. And then fourth is open your mouth and just talk, you know, so, and say hello. It's like that slide I had in the very beginning. Say hello to the person responsible for your career. Say hello to the person that's standing opposite you, and be curious. Ask them questions. How did you get here today? You know, God, I know we all talk about the weather, but you know, isn't the weather dreadful out today? Or isn't it great to be back networking face to face after being locked indoors for 3-4 months or whatever it is? So, you know, ask them questions about themselves. You know, do you come here? Do you come here often? You know, the silly questions. But you know, what's their business? What's their job? What's their career? You know, are they part of this group long? And you know, ask them questions. You know, have they heard the speaker talk before? You know, or you know, do they come on their own? All those kind of questions. Simple questions, but be curious and ask, you know, open-ended questions that are going to elicit some sort of a decent response.
Yeah, really good advice there. I think, you know, sometimes just the word networking alone can just put the fear of God in people, you know, but what you need to realize, you're just going in having the chats with people, you know.
Yeah.
And we're us Irish are pretty good at that, you know, so I don't think it's anything
what's
to be afraid of in reality.
Maybe I might have more tips when I go to this one, but what's the definitive guide to networking and speaking in public, this book is. So but really what it comes down to is just, you know, being yourself and say, you know, I'm always big believer as well in acknowledging situations. So, you know, to say, God, I'm terribly nervous coming in here. You know, I've never been to a networking event before. I bit the bullet in coming in, and, you know, hoping somebody will talk to me. You know, be a little bit vulnerable as well, because people will engage with that vulnerability too.
Yeah, that's true. So a question from anonymous attendee again. Really enjoyed the webinar. Does Valerie do coaching online on a one-to-one basis at the moment? And how can we contact you, Valerie?
So absolutely, I'm doing doing coaching online the only way to go at the moment. There's no face-to-face. So I am doing it online. You'll find me on the Employflex website under their coaches section, or you'll find me on my own website, which is clarenceconsulting.ie, and you'll find me on all the social media. You name it, I'm on it. So you'll find it either under Clarence Consulting or Valerie O'Hanlon. So you'll find me.
Okay. And just a question from Sharon here. She's asking how to keep motivated when you don't get any replies from job applications and not even PFOs.
Okay. So I think the thing to think about that is that it's not, I know that's a terrible trite statement, you know, it's not personal, it's business. Sometimes that's just the way people operate. And if you don't get a PFO and you don't get a response, then that probably isn't the company for you anyway. So I'd be thinking in those kind of lines to keep my motivation up, that it's their loss, not yours. And some businesses just don't operate very well. They might get loads of applications, loads of people, you know, they may not be able to respond to everybody. So, you know, not to take it personally. And I suppose how I get around things like that is I go back to I said earlier on, I keep a diary, a reflective journal. So I go back to my reflective journal and I look for the places where I felt confident and strong and good, and as if I could rule the world. And because I've written those bits. So after today, I'm going to write down about me doing the webinar and thinking, God, that went really well. So yeah. I'll write those things down. So on those days when I get the knockback, when things aren't going so well, I go back to those places and I reflect on them, how they made me feel, what I thought. And I think to myself, their loss, not mine, and I move on to the next thing.
Very good. You're being your own cheerleader there, so I guess
you have to. Yeah, you take responsibility for yourself.
That's it. Are you okay to keep going, Valerie? We just
I am. If people are still there, if you want to work through them, yeah, absolutely.
Most people haven't left actually, which is a good sign.
That's great. Okay,
Audrey is
asking,
Audrey is asking that she completed a diploma in coaching in 2019. However, lacked the confidence to get up, started running, and even last night her friend told her that she'd be very good at it, good listener, good advice, etc. What does she need to get going?
So she needs a plan, is firstly. So there's definitely a plan there. So I would go through some of those steps from the webinar today, looking at what's important to her. Is it that she wants to set herself up as a coach? If she does, then she needs to surround herself with some other coaches to know what they're doing and how they do it, and to learn from them. So I myself am in a coaching circle, and so that's a support group for coaches where we focus on our competency for coaching, and we share information and knowledge and experience. And you know, in that coaching circle, I actually did a presentation for my coaching circle on how to set yourself up as a coach. So if somebody like Audrey, was it?
Yes.
Audrey, somebody like Audrey, I would say to her to get a coach for herself, and to get the focus of that coaching would be to get herself moving on starting her own practice. What are the steps that she needs to take? And really, you know, it's like the networking. You got to get out there and try it. So you won't know if you're any good at it unless you actually take on a client, whether that be pro bono or you charge them. But you have to start coaching, because if you've done that, you lose if you don't use it, you'll lose it. If she's done that coaching course and finished in 2019, she needs to be practicing her coaching. And that's what will build her confidence and her motivation, because she'll see the results in the people that she's working with. So even if it's on a pro bono basis, she needs to get out there coaching and surround yourself with other coaches, and get a coach for herself to work through with that.
Great, that's fantastic. Yeah, I think, you know, it's so important when you're small. Like when I started off, I was just by myself. Like to collaborate with other people, to build up your knowledge base, I suppose, and to, you know, make more of an offering as well if you can collaborate with other people and learn from other people as well. You know, if you have that coaching circle.
Yeah, and I know, you know, some people will, you know, I know this is an employment kind of basis, and most people probably on the webinar are
job seeking
for career or job within an organization. But if your career goal or intention is to have business for yourself, you know, some people would say, oh, don't be sharing, or don't, you know, they'll steal your idea and all that kind of thing. I would be as open and as sharing as I possibly can, because there's an awful lot to be gained. That's part of the networking, is, you know, what you give away, you'll get back 10 times over. So
Absolutely, yeah.
that's a real,
Givers get, I think, is
yeah,
the
yeah.
phrase, yeah. And you know, there is room for everybody as well, you know.
There is room for everybody. And everybody's not doing the same thing. Everybody's not Karen O'Reilly. Everybody's not Valerie O'Hanlon. So,
Yeah.
you know, everybody attracts different people.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
there's a place for everybody out there.
Okay. Susan's just saying, great advice. Keep flexing that coaching muscle. Just one more question and then we'll wrap it up then. Just somebody's asking, they're trying to find out about networking events, but haven't been very successful so far. Any tips on networking events in Cork, online
Okay.
and offline when that's possible? Yeah. Well, actually, just go on Eventbrite
Yeah.
and click in your location and networking, and that'll bring up loads. There's loads and loads of things online at the moment. I mean, you could actually be going to something for breakfast, dinner, and tea online at the moment. So, and most of them are free. So
Yes.
again, it's a good chance to take that opportunity to go to these events, which might not necessarily be free. So, like the Chamber, there's Republic of Work are doing things nearly every day.
Okay.
Network Cork, Network Ireland.
Mhm.
They're all organizations that you can look at. But if you go to Eventbrite, click in networking and your location, it'll throw up and the type of networking you want to do, whether that be coaching or recruitment or business
When,
or whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah. When I started out in business, there was a girl came to one of the local enterprise office events to talk about networking. And one of the nuggets I picked from her was to do networking that's outside of your realm. So like if you're the HR person, or if you're, then network with the accountants, so,
Mm.
or if you're the solicitor, then network with the HR people, so don't always network, like, most of the professional bodies will do networking events as well, but network with other professional bodies as well as
Mm.
your own expertise, because that's where you learn other things.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've learned loads of the networking events or the local enterprise office events. I've learned how to do my Google Analytics. I've learned how to, do webinars. I've learned how to,
Mm.
do my website, to do social media. All those things I've learned just by going to free
Mm-hmm.
network events as well. So
Yeah.
you learn things at them as well as getting to meet other people.
Yeah, yeah. And even online, joining LinkedIn groups for accountants or HR or whatever, you can
One
connect up
thing of
with
the
people that way as well.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say actually, but it's for another webinar, and I'm sure the our LinkedIn gurus would tell you that. But when you're on LinkedIn, that's the part of the networking piece, especially if it is online. Treat it with the same respect as you would do if you were meeting somebody face to face.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're connecting with people on LinkedIn, networking isn't just clicking a button. You
Mm-hmm.
have to develop a conversation with the person that you connect with. So
Mm-hmm.
say hello, say you've looked at their profile, pick something out of it that you thought was interesting, tell them something about yourself. So like I connected with the guy who did the webinar yesterday, and I sent him the article that I had written and that had been the basis for this webinar today, and he came back to me, said he'd read it, so you're developing a relationship. So networking is about that as well, the relationship.
Yeah, very true. Don't be a hit and run networker, as we call them.
No, no, no.
There's just lots of thanks coming through here. Gillian is
Okay,
saying, really loved what you had to say. Love the idea of creating your own opportunity and turning it to the hand, head, and heart. Thank you. Susan is saying thank you as well. Liam is saying thank you. Well done, Valerie. Rachel, really enjoyed the presentation. So many great tips to consider. Valerie helped her out before and she was excellent. And thanks to Karen for facilitating this. So thanks for all those thanks coming in. It's lovely to get that
great.
positive feedback.
Feedback, yeah. Always great to get the positive feedback, yeah.
Yeah, my kids are starting to knock at the door now because I told them I was
Okay.
only going and
It's
we
time,
promised to go
to
to the
go.
beach.
Okay. Well, I just want to
Yeah.
say as well, thanks very much, Karen, for the opportunity to do it, and to Employflex for having me as one of your coaches on your website as well, which is great. Great to work
Pleasure
with
to
you.
have you, Valerie, and hopefully we'll have you back again maybe in the future.
Okay. Absolutely.
So just to let you know, guys, that we will be back again next Thursday, same time, same place. And next week we'll be talking about online interviews, how to prepare for them, and what to expect when you're in an online interviews, because most interviews are online now. So that's it for today. Thank you all for coming, and thanks for being so interactive. Actually, it's great when you have an interactive audience.
Yes,
And
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah,
thanks very
yeah.
much.
And again, a huge thanks to Valerie O'Hanlon from Clarence Consulting. We're absolutely delighted, and it was very, very interesting today. And it's again, hope we will have her back again sometime in the future. So until next week, guys, thanks for coming, and stay safe and stay well.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.